Hey guys, Brent Build Show. Today we're going to be talking about milling. Isn't that exciting? So how do we get here? How do we end up with things that we're making like this Gothic arch, this Gothic opening to this door, Tudor arch, the spandrels, right? How do we get here? Well, it starts with a tree, right? So, but then it's all this rough timbers and everything else. We're going from rough timbers to material like this, to finished moldings, right? We're gonna go through all of that today on the Build Show. Here in the rough mill, right? So how do we build doors? How do we build windows? What is it, what happens? Well, we actually order rough wood, okay? Now these are really big timber pieces. Typically it's 1 inch and 2 inch stock, 4/4 and 8/4 stock, right? But you notice that these things are random widths, right? And they're oftentimes random lengths, right? And so we've got to, if we're gonna build a door, and a door style is 6 inches by 1 3/4, we've got to mill it down to those dimensions, right? So as we're milling the wood, you can start to see the imperfections, right? On this side, there was a cutout where the saw blade went through there, and so we're gonna have to mill this down more to get that little piece out of there, right? Here, you look on the edge and it's 1 inch thick here, but it might be 3/4 of an inch here, right? So our milling process unifies and makes everything equal. Now, the machines we use to do that are a machine like this, which is a planer, right? This is our small planer, our Oliver planer. And so we will adjust the height, right? This great wheel here adjusts the height of this table, and we run our wood through there and we get these dimensions. We've also got these joiners, because what happens is you actually have to take, the first thing you do is you actually smooth the face. And so you'll run our board through here, and then we'll also run our board through here, right? So that we have a full 90-degree dimension right here. Look at this awesome wheel here, right? This is how you adjust the table, right? It looks like a ship's wheel, right? Got these wooden handles. I love machines that are pre-1940s, pre-1950s, right? Heavy castings, you see all these heavy castings, huge motors, right? Got this awesome wheel here, huge gears inside there, 40 horsepower motor, right? 40 horsepower direct drive motor, which drives this thing. Because of these heavy castings, right? It's like a battleship, right? We can take those long timbers, huge timbers, and that thing will hog it out. If you have a small planer and you try to run a big timber like that through there, it will actually slow the blades down. We won't have the speed. This is how we end up with a door like this, right? It starts in the rough mill. It starts with all these parts and pieces that we are then milling down in order to make it beautiful like this. Okay, so now welcome to the finish mill, right? We were just in the rough mill. We have joiners and planers, and here we're finishing that milling experience, right? Mostly with shapers in here. So come on and follow me along, and I'll just show you some of the awesome machines we've got here. One of my favorite is this tenoner. Okay, this is a Greenlee tenoner, and basically what it is it is cutting this joint. So this is the bottom rail of a window, right? You see the mortise and tenon, you see the tenon, right? And so what you're seeing here is you're seeing this knife come across and cut here, but there's also a cope here. That's called a cope when you cope it in like that. So this will sit like this, right, on here, and these knives will come along and cut this part, right? And then these knives will come in and cut the cope. This table moves through back and forth, right? As we and we can mill stuff off here. Love this. This is a big awesome machine. Now back here you start to see all our shapers right up, and we've got big shapers and small shapers based on the kind of thing you're trying to do. We grind all our knives over there, but we've got all these knives over here, right? Here's one for a bracket we just did, and so they'll get set in these shaper heads. These shaper heads will then get dropped onto the shaper, and you'll actually start making your material, right? If we're doing this, you'll see that one reason when you have 8 or 10 shapers in a room like this is because you'll have set up things where you're doing individual products or individual things, and you don't want to break them down, right? You can see all the parts and pieces that go into a breakdown, so you just want to keep them set up as much as possible. Here's something we'll make over here. It's an arched trim, an arched brick mold, right? We start with a template like this, which establishes this radius. This will get screwed here, and then this gets run through a shaper, right? So the knives will come in and cut this out, right? But we're making this over here. One of my other favorite tools is this hollow chisel mortiser, right? So basically there's a hollow chisel, right? So that's why it's called that. And there's a drill bit that runs inside there. And this goes up and down and cuts the wood out and actually cuts our mortises. Now, we're really big into mortise and tenon joinery. We think that kind of joinery lasts longer. So you saw our tenon are over there, our mortise are there, right? That's how we're making those joineries when we're making doors and windows. You get back here, you get into the bigger, beefier shapers. This is a feeder, an automatic feeder that actually, you just set the wood on here and run it through there. It's much safer than running your hands across there. So you have these automatic feeders. Again, setups for different types of moldings you do. Again, setting up a shaper, you want to keep it set up for as long as possible. And then back here we have a circular shaper where you actually can lay things flat on here and it runs through this way and your knife comes down and cut it, right? Rough mill over there, you're taking rough stock and milling it down to a dimension or a thickness, right? Finish mill in here, we're actually starting to put profiles on the wood, right? If you're going to make a molding, it'll get made in the molder area. However, if you're making doors and windows, it gets made here in the finish mill. That's pretty cool. You know, hopefully a little for you machine geeks out there. We showed you some of the machines that go into making this material, but we really think that buying these older machines, buying these older things, they're better, right? And so all of these things are at least 20 or 30 years old. And then finally, when you're done in here, it goes to the assembly area. Now, if we're going to use hand tools, okay, that's where that would happen. So we're machining, okay, a lot of this stuff out, which, you know, is historic. They were machining material like that from the 1880s, 1890s. Most of these machines existed back then. So then hand tools and handwork would actually happen in the assembly area, in the finish area. So pretty cool stuff. Be sure to sign up for the newsletter on the Build Show. I'm Brent Hull. Thanks for watching.